Okay, Peter, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're joining us. Normally, I'll ask the person that I'm interviewing to introduce themselves and just tell us a bit more. But I've given a brief bio of you in here. So really, what I want to try and do is find out, like, well, tell us a little bit about your background to start with, and then we'll move on to the business aspect. So you just give us a bit of background of where you came from, what you grew up as, your in a brief synopsis of how you went through the starting years and then how you eventually got into business.
Okay, nice to see you, Fred. I originally started off as a school teacher in Australia. I'm an Aussie, okay? Started off as a school teacher in Australia. Absolutely loved it. Truly loved it. Didn't plan to be a school teacher, but ended up that way, right? And unfortunately, over the years, I did the job pretty well, but I kept getting promoted, and I got to the stage when I was promoted to a deputy principal of a school. And even though I didn't have a problem leading the staff, it meant that I couldn't teach kids anymore. And that's all I wanted to do is teach the kids, right? So I said to them, look, I don't want this job. I said, but, you got increase in salary and all this sort of rubbish. I said, I don't want it. I just want to teach the kids. I said, oh, no, don't worry about that. Well, Fred, I'm an administration nightmare. Always have been, always will be, right? So I said, thanks for coming. I'm going. I'm off, all right? And I thought, now what am I going to do? I hadn't thought too much about this, right? And long and the short was, I thought, well, there's two jobs that I know that people hate, okay? And if I can do them better than anybody else, then I reckon I can do okay. One was a used car salesman, and the other one was a life insurance agent. So I decided I'm going to get a job as a life insurance agent. But it took me 5 goes to get a job because they all knew who I was from my school thing, right? And I was in Rotary at the time. And they said, Peter, you don't be an agent, for goodness sake. Come, let's go and have lunch together. Every manager I met didn't think I was serious. So I finally found one didn't know me, got a job as an agent. And that's what started me off, okay, in the sales and marketing side. That's 36 years ago, Fred, showing my age, right? 36 years ago. After 16 years in teaching and 36 years, nearly 37 years in sales and marketing. And I've been there ever since. And what I've basically done is made every mistake under the sun you can possibly think about, but at the same time, learnt some really good lessons, which I'm happy to share today with some people who may find them helpful. But more important than that, I realised something else, and that is that business is all about people first. It's not about you. It's not about what you offer. It's not about the company. It's not about how good your service is. It's not how long your company's been in business. If they don't buy you, then they're not going to buy anything. I learnt that lesson the hard way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can understand that. One question that came out of that was that, like, when you had to make the decision, and whether it was just you picked one and didn't matter, but you said you had two choices. You could become a used car salesman or an insurance salesperson. What made you decide, or was it just, you just said, I've just got to pick one?
I can't remember. I think probably because, cars had never been that great interest to me, be quite frank, Fred. That just get me from A to B, be quite frank. Whereas life insurance was a bigger challenge because you're selling something that you can't put your hands on, right? And nobody likes to talk about death, for example, right? So to me, that represented a bigger challenge. And at the same time, I must tell you, I was not very popular with my family for making this decision, right? So I had to prove them wrong at the same time. And to be quite frank with you, I did far better as a life insurance agent than I would have done ever, even as a school principal. And basically, I did it because of one thing. I wasn't interested in the products. I said, please don't sit me down and teach me all the rate books and product information. I'm not interested. I really am not interested. I'll find someone else to do that. Just let me talk to the people, and I'll bring someone with me who's an expert in all the products. And if the customer needs to know about the products, I'll refer it to them. And that's exactly what I did. So I go and talk to Fred Gillen. I say, hey, Fred, how you doing? Da, da, da. By the way, please don't ask me anything about life insurance because I haven't got a clue. And that was the absolute truth. I haven't got a clue. But I'd like to talk to you about you and your family, okay? And if the need for life insurance comes up, well, then I'll get young Harry over here to give you some ideas. How does that sound? And that's what I did.
It's a different approach. I suppose that the question that comes to mind for me, and that is that, was anybody else in the insurance industry doing the same thing at the time? Or were they all selling the products?
They're all selling the product in the company, right? And I mean, I became Rookie of the Year. Then they asked me to become the agency manager. I said, no, that's an administration job. I don't want that being there. They said, no, Peter, we want you to train other people to do what you're doing. Oh, okay. That's the old school teacher coming at me, right? So they said, you get a company car. Well, big deal, right? So I became the agency manager and became the #1 agency manager in Australia after a couple of years. Then they asked me to become the national Australian manager, Australian sales manager. And I did that, but that all then started getting back in the administration side, Fred. So I said, enough. Okay, that'll do. I'm going to go and start my own business because I'm not a corporate person and I'm not an administrator and I don't like playing corporate politics. So I thought I'll just look after me. And the best way to do that is to say, thanks for coming and away. And I went and started my own sales and marketing business. And all I did was combine the sales experience I had with the teaching love that I had. And that's why I'm coaching. That's what it is.
So that was a great segue because it means that then like you moved from, because you always wanted to be like a teacher, as you were saying, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as it got to the admin stuff and it wasn't enjoyable, you moved on. So when
Not
you decided,
enjoyable, Fred, I'm useless at it.
So when you decided to move on, did you actually stick with the insurance industry as a niche, or did you just look at other niches and then pick another one?
I had a few clients to start with who were agents, or what they call managing agents in those days. And I recall being just as I had left, being invited to a conference in the United States put on by a group called LIMRA, okay, it's Life Insurance Marketers Association. But I had to tell them I'd left the business by then, but they still wanted me to come because they'd heard about the way I went about selling their stuff, right? Yep. Different to everybody else. And here I am in San Diego, Fred, just picture this. There's about, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 people in the room, okay? I'm the only Aussie there and probably the youngest, to be quite frank. And I hear I'm up on the stage and I'm telling these people, this is how I sell, right? Well, I can tell you it's not very pleasant to have people in the front row get up and walk out, right? Actually get up and walk out while I'm talking. And people chat. So then I said, stop. Before I go any further, hands up those people who have not earned $10,000 this month. Okay? And they put their hands up. I said, you are the people who better stay in this room. The rest of you, you can go. Because I will show you how to earn $10,000 this month in the next 45 minutes. Are you interested? If you are, sit down, shut up and listen. And that's exactly what I said, right? And so then I taught them how to go about building relationships with people rather than trying to sell their stuff. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
So when you said $10,000, what year was that? Can you remember?
Oh, Fred.
Because I mean, there's still a figure that's bandied about today.
Yeah, it'll be double that today. It was in the late 80s, okay, last century.
Right. So yeah, so it was like setting a high target for people that, you know, the high achievers. If they weren't there, you were going to help them get there.
Because I knew a lot of people in the room weren't making any money. I knew that, right? I mean, the agency managers in those days were making their money, but there's a lot of agents who were really struggling because they were using old-fashioned sales techniques and you know what the the name and image of a life insurance agent was like in those days, right? That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So I was trying to show them a different way to do it. But they thought, this is too much out of left field.
So you mentioned that you're mainly Australian based, but then you went and you did this conference in San Diego. So was there much difference from your perspective of, and I think I know the answer, right? But from your perspective of the sales coaching aspect, because of the difference in the products, or did you get that negative feedback from the people because they said, he sells insurance in Australia, he doesn't know anything about our stuff here?
It's because the Australian training for insurance came from the United States anyway, right?
Okay.
Whatever the United States did, Australia did. And I was actually challenging the status quo. And that's why I wasn't very popular. But, that stuff now, unfortunately, still being taught by some people, and they wonder why they can't make any money. Because people, I don't want to get too deep into this, but can I share this with you?
Absolutely. That's why we're here. Sure.
Whatever business you're in, forget life insurance. I mean, I did some work with life insurance, but then I ended up going into the hospitality area throughout Asia, in Singapore, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, etc. And I was teaching people in the hospitality area how to get bums in beds. That's what it amounted to, right? By doing the same thing, exactly the same thing, by actually building a relationship with people, not trying to sell them stuff. And what I'm trying to get people to understand is this. If you're starting off in business, okay, then don't be scared to be vulnerable. Don't be scared to make a mistake. Be ordinary. Okay, so people can resonate with you. People know Tony Robbins and they think he's ants pants, but most people can't relate to him per se. They can be impacted by him, but they can't relate to him because he's way up in the air, right?
Yep.
I'm not being critical of Tony Robbins, but that's him, right? But if you are ordinary, people can relate to you. If they can see that you've made mistakes, they can relate. Yes, he understands me. Yes, I understand that. So if you can be ordinary, then at the same time, extraordinary. In other words, show them that you've had that same problem, you've had that same mistake, you've had those same feelings, okay, but you've overcome them, then you're both ordinary and extraordinary. Can you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose that that's where we both come from, similar backgrounds and stuff. And you've grown up, as a teacher, and I started life as an electrician and moved on and do the coaching now as well. But and it's all about relationships. You can't sell to somebody. They've got to want to buy. Right?
Well,
so you've got to get them into that buying mode.
Interested. They're not interested in what you have, Fred.
No.
They really don't give a darn. All they want to know is, can you solve their problem? Don't give them, I've been in business for 50 years, I've got the world's best X, Y, and Z. They don't care. And you know what? They don't believe anyway. What you've got to do is build that relationship. And that's the key. People think, just build a know, like, and trust relationship. Fred, those three words have been around for a long time and people all know it. And you know what? They mangle it. They completely mangle it, right? Know, like, and people. You don't have to have people like you in order for them to become a customer. Okay? You don't have to do that.
That's different, because I would have thought, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I would have thought that people have to, I would have thought they had to like you and relate to you more so and be comfortable with you in order to do business with you. Because if they dislike you, I always thought that there's no way they're going to do business with you. So can you expand on that?
Yeah. You are partially right. If I didn't like you, Fred, I probably wouldn't do business. That's what you're saying. I agree with that. But what I am saying is stop trying to work on getting people to like you in order to sell them something, because it's fake friendship. That's what I'm saying. What you should focus on is building resonance with them. Get them to resonate with you by being ordinary and extraordinary, giving them that story, right? Get them to resonate with you. If they resonate with you, then they will respect you. And if they respect you, they will be inspired by you. And if they're inspired by you, Fred, guess what? They will follow your advice and become possibly a client. And even if they don't become a client, you can't lose, because either they become a client or they've enjoyed the experience with you so much because you've actually taken them down a path that no one else has taken them down, that they'll be an advocate for you anyway. Can you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it's a totally different take to what I, like you said, what you're used to hearing. And it does, that resonates with me. Absolutely. Because it's so true. What you're saying. And it's just using the word like. So it's resonating with each other, I think, is more important, and it's more dramatic. The phrase itself is more dramatic, and it's certainly got a lot more meaning.
It is. And it's, by the way, and it's not easy to do. You've got to work at it, right? But you also got to be fair dinkum. You've got to be genuine about this. You can't fake. I mean, I always teach people this. You cannot script sincerity, right? You can't do that. And what I'm really getting, the message to people, I hope who are listening to this, especially if you're thinking about even trying to start a business, or even if you're in a business, think of these things. One, an expert knows something, but an authority is known for something.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that is so powerful.
Okay.
That phrase is so
your
powerful.
objective is to become an authority, so you are known for something. Okay, which means you differentiate yourself from your competitors. Let me put another way to you. People get paid the least, Fred, for what they do. They get paid the most for who they are.
Yeah, so it's a lot to contemplate there. When you talked about the aspect of getting paid for who you are rather than what you know or what you do. I mean, that's a powerful statement, because it rings so true. It's absolutely spot on. So if you were starting out in business again, Peter, what would you do anything different?
Yeah, I would, because I made a hell of a lot of mistakes, Fred. What the objective I would have right now, if I, going back in hindsight, right, would be to become a trusted authority in whatever field it was in. And the way to become a trusted authority is to create as many memorable moments as I can for every person I came in contact with. In other words, whether they're potential clients, existing clients, or people who will never become clients. Create memorable moments. And Fred, part of what I do. I mean, within the social media area, for example, I always try to thank people personally, right? And I do it by voice clips, for example, on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I mean, and you're familiar with what. Why do I do that? Because I want Fred to truly appreciate that I appreciate him. So I'm trying to create a memorable moment. I do that every day of the week. I live by it.
Yeah, and I can actually attest to that, because as soon as we get off a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting or whatever else, I go to ping and suddenly it's a voice message from you. So yeah, absolutely.
But the reason I'm doing it is not to try and impress you. The reason is because I believe in it. I want to say truly thank you for your contribution to our mastermind. In other words, it happens to be giving you, I hope, a memorable moment, even if it's only for a moment of a second. It doesn't cost anything. But that's the way I go about building myself as a trusted authority.
The other thing about doing something like that is that you end up staying top of mind in somebody's brain. So when they think of somebody that like you, that does coaching or whatever, then if I have a client that falls into your niche, you're the first one that comes to mind, because you're basically in my head with these speech clips.
Yeah. Well, let me put it another way to you, Fred. You do not have to be the best in the world, right? You just have to be the best in their world. Think about that.
there's been a lot of phrases that you've used in this, the interview today. And it's actually going to be interesting because I'm actually going to pinch a lot of them and just make memes out of them and drop them up on social media, because there's been some really good nuggets in here. So we've covered off, how you started and what you did and briefly what you're doing, but we haven't really covered off what you are doing today and how, what business you're in and how you help people. And more importantly, how people can get in contact with you.
I have a passion for helping. I don't work with corporates anymore, Fred. I'm not going back there. Been there and done that, right? I work with solopreneurs who are basically online, who are struggling with sales, because many people are really good at what they do. They really are good at what they do. But when it comes to trying to promote themselves, they are useless. They feel lost. They feel sleazy and salesy if they've got to start pushing their services. So I teach them how to go about building a customer base based on memorable moments. Remember, I referred to this before, based on memorable moments, so that people reach out to them and ask them for help. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you do. I'm assuming that you do majority of that online today.
All of it online. Okay. All of it. Yeah, I mean, I used to run some live events, but since COVID, no. And I might get back to that, but I'll probably do them online anyway, to be quite frank with you, right? But to me, the key bit is you need to be able to put yourself in a situation. This is what I do. I help people to get confidence, to be able to be proud, to serve people, not sell them, to have the guts to get on the call to say, Fred, it's Peter Beckenham here. Is this at a convenient time to speak with you? But before I even do that, Fred, I'm going to call you because I've organised that beforehand. And that's all part of the coaching. I teach people how to build a relationship with Fred Gillen first, so that when the call comes place and I say, Fred, would it be a problem if I left you my calendar link so we could get on a call together? Notice what I said? Yep. Would it be a problem? I'm asking for a no, right? Would it be a problem if I left my calendar link? And if you say no, then we're on a call. It's the opposite of asking for a yes. Does that make sense? It's a reverse.
Yeah, and it's obviously very deliberate. But when you think about it, like everybody says no means no. Well, actually, in your case, no means yes.
Correct.
Correct. So it's an interesting play on words. Whereas,
well, in a way, yes, but in a way, what it's doing. This is the key thing. Sorry, I interrupt you, Fred.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
The key part of what you asked me about my coaching, and I didn't want to spend time promoting it. I mean, I'm just trying to help today, right?
Yep.
But the key thing is this: you need to earn the right to ask people questions. Secondly, you should never assume that you know what their problem is. And thirdly, you need to seek permission at every stage of any sales conversation with people. That is the absolute reverse of traditional selling.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like it's so logical, and I'm trying to think of the right word around it, but when you package it like that together, it just, to me, and maybe it's because I'm in the industry, but it just seems to be the valid thing to do, right? So
Fred, I love it. I mean, you can do it. I mean, I'm passionate about this stuff, right? And I'm 76 years of age, right? And the one part of the sales thing that people hate is prospecting, right? You know what, Fred? I've got to stop myself from doing it because I have so much fun doing it. Because to me, I don't think of it as prospecting. I don't think of it as sales. I don't think of it. All I do is think about building a relationship with a new person. And here's a very simple idea. And you probably will not take this up, but I'm going to tell you because it works. Whenever somebody reaches out to me for the first time on LinkedIn, on social media, on Facebook, wherever it is, okay, then I will always leave them either a video or a voice clip, never a text message. And by the way, there's a very good reason for that because I'm the world's worst typist, right? But what I do is this. Fred, I'm delighted to accept your connection request. Thank you so very much indeed. And on the screen in front of me, I can see that your tagline, you do X, Y, and Z. You know what? I'm looking forward to finding out a bit more about that. But before we do that, I have a suggestion for you. Would it be a problem for you if I left you my calendar link here so we could get on a call just for 5 or 10 minutes so you can tell me what gets Fred Gillen out of bed in the morning, what drives you, what's your why? Because once I understand that, then the business opportunities we have together could be unlimited. But until I know that, I haven't got a clue. That's what I do.
So, and like, I'm glad I'm recording this. So, but so I'll ask a question about that. So is that your tester to see if they respond? And if they don't respond, you don't go any further, or?
No. Okay.
So basically my question is, so if they don't respond within a certain time frame, do you do anything or not?
Yes, I do. If they don't respond only once, because there's millions to pick from, right? And I just want to have fun. Okay, I make this enjoyable. If I left you a voice message or video message and you didn't respond, Fred, then I use a CRM, okay, customer relationship management, bit of software called Agile. It's free anyway, right? But there's many of those around. And it just reminds me, Fred didn't respond. So this is what I do. Hey, Fred, I noticed you didn't respond to my voice clip about X, Y, and Z. You know, I just listened to it. My godfather, sound like I'm giving a eulogy at my grandfather's funeral. No wonder you didn't respond. Or sounds like I'm giving a speech at the United Nations. I'm so damn serious. No wonder you didn't respond. Or I just poke fun at myself.
Yep.
That always, nearly always gets a response. But if it doesn't, finish. Right? Because, to be quite frank, when people don't respond to a request to want to get on a call to talk to you about themselves, not their business, all they're trying to do is flog their business to you.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
and that's 90% of the connection requests you get.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep.
Now, when people send me a connection request and I accept it and bing, straight away, they send me, for example, on Facebook, a text with links and all this sort of stuff, you know, typical spam, right? I'll give them one sentence answer. I'll say, Fred, is this working for you? That's all I say in a voice clip. Fred, interesting. Is this working for you? Fred thinks, because he's got all this stuff in his head. I'm not talking about you personally.
Yeah.
He's thinking, he's interested. Yeah, I made $10,000 last month. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm asking you, is this way of marketing to me working for you? Because it's sure not working for me. That's my point. And I've got clients from that, Fred. I've actually got clients from that. Some of them get affronted, okay, and they even unfriend me. Well, hallelujah, who cares, right?
Okay. Yeah,
but others say, well, what should I do? I said, well, you're doing the worst thing possible. How do you know whether I need your X, Y, Z? Okay. And some of the worst offenders, I won't go down there. Okay. There's, you know, as well as I do, there's certain areas within social media who are notorious for flogging their stuff, right?
Yeah. No, it's not true.
Anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. We've just gone over the 20 minutes, are coming close to it. And I try and, you know, make these nice short little podcasts rather than going on for the hour that normal people do, because as you know, I'm not normal. But so is there any, for the listeners that may be starting out in business, right? And they're, maybe a year or two in, whatever else. Is there any snippet of advice that you'd care to share for somebody to, like you mentioned, lead generation and cold calling or whatever it might be? Is there any advice that you could give somebody starting out?
Yep.
On how to get better results?
Okay, I better go quick because I know time's against us, because you just asked me a question I can spend all day on, right? First of all, you need to have a process. You need to have a process to generate leads. You need to have a process to get a percentage of those leads and convert them into customers. And you need to have a process or a system to nurture those customers so they become advocates. If you don't have those processes and systems in place, you don't have a business, you've got a hobby. Okay, that's critical. You need to have that in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, great statement there about like you don't have a business, you got a hobby. And I think that's where a lot of people, like particularly online, starting out, find themselves, that it's really a hobby because they're not committed to it.
Well, and that raises an interesting point, Fred, commitment. Because what is key for those people who are listening to this, and I'm really hoping I'm helping somebody, right? You need to invest in yourself. If you aren't prepared to invest in yourself, then again, you're running a hobby. You're playing games. And the investment's got three aspects to it. And the first two are the most critical, and you control them. The first one is your commitment to make the changes necessary in order to be a success. The second one is time. Are you prepared to put the time in order to achieve the transformation that you want? If you're not committed to changing or spending the time in it, then it doesn't matter what the money investment is, it's not going to work. But if you can convince me, Fred, that you are definitely, you've got the guts, you've got the intestinal fortitude, you want to achieve the change you want, and secondly, you are prepared to invest the time to make that happen, then I'll make sure from a coaching perspective that I put an investment in terms of the money that fits your budget to make it work for you.
I think that's a great way to end it, Peter. So if people want to actually take you up on that offer, that you can help them achieve their goals by coaching them, how do they get in touch with you?
PeterBeckenham.com.
Nice and easy. I'll actually put that in the notes as well, in the show notes as well. So we'll make sure that we get some leads happening on that. So I appreciate your time today, as always. And this is the first one of the relaunch of More Marketing Ideas podcasts. And what an impressive lot of golden nuggets we've achieved today. Appreciate your time, Peter.
Thank you, Fred. Enjoyed helping. All the best.